Hello and welcome to all our wonderful wine club members who you all are joining us from across the country, in every region of the country. We are very excited to have you join us today. And honestly, I think that this is one of the benefits of the pandemic, is that we have learned to have these tastings virtually when we can't do them online, and it really has given us an opportunity to come to where you are, and that's in a lot of different places today. So welcome and thank you. So as you see, we are going to be going through our Harvest Wine Club selection today. We've got three wonderful wines that we're going to be going through. We've got the 2019 WALT Pinot Noir from Gap's Crown. We have the 2019 BACA Zinfandel Tug of War, and the 2018 Kathryn Cabernet, which actually comes from this vineyard right here. I'm up here at Sakura, and really, this is, I have to say, the most exciting time of the year. We are in the middle of harvest. So some of you are joining us from rather close at hand. This is such a great time to come up to the wine country. And if you're thinking about it, I hope you will do that. So this vineyard in particular hasn't been Sakura. We won't pick up here for a week or a couple of weeks probably from now. However, all of our vineyards are in the middle of getting ready for pick, and you will see all over Napa Valley these wonderful truckloads of grapes that are hauling grapes back into the wineries, including in our own. And the air is just full of this wonderful sweet smell of juice. So it's really quite wonderful here, and I'm so glad you're here. So normally at this tasting, I am joined by our winemaking team, our head of winemaking, Megan Gunderson, our vice president, and the head of all of our production team, and Allison Frichtel as well, who is our director of winemaking. And but they are very, very busy right now. So I am going to be joined by two people whose faces I am hopeful that you will recognize, because you've been seeing them on our virtual happy hours. And we're going to bring them on. The first person that's going to join me right now is Jennifer Brown. Jennifer is our director of, hello, Jennifer.
Hi, Mom. How's it going?
It's great. So Jennifer is my daughter, and she is also the head of BACA, and she is involved in other activities at the winery, including marketing strategy and brand development. Today, she is exclusively here as our head of BACA. So welcome. And I'm so glad you joined.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here to talk about all of our wines, including our BACA wines. And
we've got such a wonderful cross-section of our members from all over the country. Let's bring on our third person who's joining us, and that is Jeff Sippelli. Jeff is our general manager of WALT, and he has held a lot of different roles. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jennifer. Hi, Kathryn. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
So I was just finishing saying that you are the head of WALT, and you are the general manager for WALT, but you are also, you've had so many other hats over the course of over a decade at the winery, and including starting our wine club. So
yeah,
there's
absolutely.
A lot of.
So we are, I apologize, I got a little sun behind me today, but it is a beautiful day, and obviously in Napa. And yeah, it was a pleasure to start. I mean, we started our wine club, what, about 2006, I think, or just a little before that. I think our longest tenured member is still Chuck Bryce of New York. So hopefully Chuck's listening in right now.
Cheers to Chuck.
Yeah, and by the way, I'll say that too. Cheers to Chuck. So we've got wonderful wines that we're going to be going through, and I propose that we start with our first one, which is the Gaps Crown from WALT. So, Jeff, why don't you lead us through that?
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm going to do this kind of, I guess, from the heavens, but as are all things,
you know what? Your wines are heavenly, so it makes total sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Gaps Crown is a fantastic offering in our wine club. And by the way, I just want to remind everybody that we're looking for questions today. We're going to do our best to talk about these wines, but as many questions as you could offer. So this is the Gaps Crown Vineyard. It's a vineyard in the Petalum Wind Gap, almost 8 miles due west of where our Bob's Ranch vineyard is. So every day, the fog and the wind rolls over the top of Bob's Ranch, and it literally hits the mountainside right here at Gaps Crown. We're looking down right now on our blocks, which are some of the most fantastic planted blocks in the Sonoma Coast. What I love about this vineyard is it's farmed so pristinely and so impeccably that for us, we can really rely on the grower because they're starting to farm their vineyards just like the way we would expect to farm ours, and it's just it creates a wine of great depth and great character. It's really a lot of fun.
It's a beautiful wine. I'll say that, let me say one more thing about the questions. So we really do encourage you to ask the questions and put them in the Q&A section here, and we will pick them up when they come across. So I am thinking as you're talking and about Gaps Crown, how different the climate is. I'll pretty much guarantee that right now it is not looking at all like Napa Valley, and probably full still of some cold wind and fog.
Yeah, I was there. I was there this morning, and it was about as cold and foggy as you can imagine. We had drizzle. We had drizzle at Bob's Ranch. It's a really spectacular part of the Sonoma Coast, being south of the Russian River proper. But you're right. Pinot likes an ocean view, as Megan Gunderson always says, and that's the upside. The downside is you get all the coastal stuff with it too.
Yeah, but anyway, we're talking about taking care of wonderful vines, and what we humans like isn't necessarily going to be consistent with that. So, well, shall we taste? Yeah. So, shall we taste that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I brought a bottle for everyone to see. Gaps Crown Pinot Noir is a wine that has a lot of elegance and a richer style of Pinot Noir for sure. Just like Bob's Ranch, it has that darker, more brambly fruit, but it's really the pristine regalness that makes it just a little different. Being from an up on the hillsides gives it a little bit more textural qualities in the wine. We get more tannin. The berries are very small, so we get a lot of what's called juice to skin ratio in this wine. But it's just so beautiful over the palate. It's I think just regal is the best way I can explain the wine. Kathryn, what did you think? We've been making this wine since 2010.
I love this wine. I actually. To me, the acidity is really so lovely on the wine. I just think, and that comes from that, in part from that very cold climate that you have out there at Gaps Crown. But I love this wine too. By the way, Jeff, we just got a question that came in, and they want to know how many cases of this we are making.
Well, clearly we didn't make enough. This wine's actually completely sold out. Thank you to our members for taking advantage of this release. It's every year we're thinking about wine to make wine for our members. And that's why you're a member, is because we give you complete access to this wine and you bought it all. So we make about 650 cases. It was almost all completely sold in the last 2.5 months. From the release time, I think in early August, for those members who took advantage of the early release. And every year we're making about the same amount. There's not a lot of fruit for us, and we're just really excited to get what we get.
And it's such a beautiful wine, and we're so grateful to be able to make wine from this location. It's got really a cult following, Gaps Crown. So how lucky are we to be able to make this wine for so long and to make it so well? It's so delicious.
It really is, and when probably more for you because you're out in the market more than I am, Jeff. But it seems to me that whenever I'm out, I get people, and if I'm presenting the Gaps Pinot Noir, that just the folks are very excited because they know about this particular appellation.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible wine, and I know we've got some questions coming in, but I would agree that being in the market, and Jennifer and I, we've been hosting wine dinners in the market, seeing our club members out there. They're always asking for the things that we don't sell in the market, which, you know, is included in the Gaps Crown right now, because we didn't have enough to sell. So it's now just directly being sold to them, and we're excited that they're the ones who get it.
Hi, everybody, thank you so much for all these questions. This is so much more fun for us, and I think for you too, if we're not just doing a series of just presentations on our part. So Bill Killish has asked us, and this is for you, Jeff.
Okay.
How many different vineyard sites do you use for your Pinot Noirs? And do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I think it's like your children, right? We make 11 Pinot Noirs, and you love them all for different reasons. And so I what I would just say is the vineyard sites themselves are spectacular. And so you fall in love with every vineyard site that you go to, and then they all present you with different expressions of wine. And depending upon if I'm in a reading mood, I'm usually in the Shea, you know, delicate, thoughtful. Bob's Ranch for me is always it's a big wine with a lot of explosive things going on, like Gaps Crown. And then like Clos Pepe for me is always a party in a bottle. So I just, it's just some reason that the Santa Barbara County always brings the party out in me.
I like that description.
Yeah.
That's really great. I'll tell you what, so this is really a beautiful example of what Sonoma County can do for with Pinot Noir. And we have a question from Kelly Norman, again to you, Jeff, about that Kelly is saying they find Sonoma Pinots are fuller and bigger than Oregon. And the question is why?
So specifically, definitely from the Wind Gap region where the Gaps Crown wine is located, the vines are constantly pummeled by cold air and wind, and so that makes them really small, and you get a lot of power, elegance, flavor. Plus, we have heat. It might play as a foggy, cold area. It's actually it does get a warm season for a long period of time. Oregon is a cooler, wetter, less hospitable climate to growing grapes, and so you have a shorter season. Typically, things like bloom and veraison all happen after the California Pinot Noirs, and so for that reason, the fruit just doesn't become as dense, and it's more delicate on its feet, more Burgundian, if some people have played that term for time to time. But what I love about Oregon is it's almost terroir first, so you get those earth flavors, and then the pretty red fruit from the Shea vineyard is really what sets it off. So
it is really beautiful. And you can and even the color on the Shea just sort of alerts you to the fact that it's going to be different,
Yeah, it really is an outlier in our portfolio, but a beautiful one.
Yeah, it totally is. All right, let's see if we've got it. Before we move on to our next wine, I'm good. Nope. Okay, no more questions right now, but keep them coming, everybody. I propose, Jennifer, that we move on to you and tell us about BACA and tell us about our tug of war.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited about our wine that's in our club shipment this quarter. It's called Tug of War. And one of the really great things about BACA is that we're working with heritage vineyards around California that have these really cool stories that have been preserved, that the vineyards have been preserved through generations, and they have really deep, rich history. And this vineyard in particular, where Tug of War comes from, is called the Maffei Vineyard. It's owned by the Maffei family, surprise, surprise. But look at these vineyards. They look historic even. You can tell they're not on those pristine trellises like the vineyard we were just looking at in Gaps Crown. These are old vines. So they were planted in 1929 and 1949. They have really deep, rich history. The Maffei family is an Italian immigrant family. The matriarch of the family, Joanne Maffei, has been farming this her whole life. It's really her life's passion. And, every time I go out there to that vineyard, she's always out there looking at the vines, really meticulously managing that canopy, we only work with families that we think preserve the vineyards to the standard that we also need those vineyards to be at. And the Maffei vineyard exceeds our expectations. It's really producing some really killer grapes. In particular, I'll just say about old vines, old vine is something that's really unique to Zinfandel since it's the quintessential California grape and it's been planted the longest in our state. But as a vine gets older, it becomes less efficient. So it produces fewer grapes. But what it does produce is more powerful, more concentrated. So the flavor that you get off this wine is just really, it's just really concentrated and lovely. And then I'll just say too that the reason why we call it tug of war, all of our wines are named after games or playful names, but we call it tug of war because it reminds us of that beautiful fog that rolls in the morning in Russian River and lingers until the late morning and then rolls right back out. It's not too different of a climate from where Gap's Crown is in the Petaluma Wind Gap. It's very cold, very windy, but still gets, temperate, warm temperatures in the afternoon that gives it still that lovely ripeness on the grapes. Anything else you want to know about it? I could talk about this for a long time.
I could go on about Joanne Maffei's vineyard, for just even longer. It's just an incredible spot. She still hasn't gotten off the old tractor. She's still out there every day. And it's just a really cool place. Halfway between, the Russian River is where it is, halfway between Gap's Crown and the Dry Creek Valley, which is where a lot of your other wines, the Rock Pile and the Home Base, are from. So it's a really cool place.
Yeah, no, and the Russian River, it's mostly Pinot Noir and Chardonnay country, right? But we're so lucky that there are these heritage vineyard sites in Russian River, including Maffei Vineyard, that's preserving this really incredible Zinfandel vineyard. So if you haven't tried this wine, I highly recommend it. It's you want me to talk about the flavor profile, Mom, or?
I would like you to talk about it.
Not to jump the gun. By the way, Jeff, earlier when you were saying, it's like your children, you can't have favorites.
Yep.
I would argue that, you can't have favorites, right, Mom? Just kidding. Okay, so no worries. So this wine is really deep. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. It's really a deep ruby color. It's really got that beautiful inky color to the wine. I mean, I know we're coming up next with Kathryn Hall, which is like super inky, but in particular, this wine I think has a really beautiful color. And similar to Gap's Crown, I think it has really beautiful red notes on the palate too. So you get a lot of that ripe red berries, like raspberry. And then it still has that juiciness to this wine that I like a lot. It is a cooler region, especially, in the late morning. So you get that beautiful acidity on this wine. It makes it, I think, a little juicy, which I like.
I love the acidity on this wine. And I think this wine demonstrates so well what we do across the portfolio at BACA. And that is with our Zinfandels. They are big. They have a lot of fruit, a lot of taste. At the same time, they have restraint. There's some elegance there. And I think in part, that's the acidity on this particular wine helps a lot. But I also think it's just, it's really a beautiful way to make Zinfandel. And I'm so glad that we are able to sort of give this varietal the respect it deserves. I think, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think something that I hear a lot, I travel like Jeff does out in different parts of the country. And something that I always hear from people is that no matter what wine we make, it's great. And that's really what we're striving for. We're trying to make the best in class Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet, and Zinfandel. And I think we've done it. I'm really, really proud of this wine and the other wines in our portfolio.
So we have a question that came in from Carol Matthews, who wants to know if Allison and Megan are making the BACA wines also.
They are. They make all of our wines together. Allison used to be the primary winemaker for BACA, but now it's really more of a team effort where they sit down and make all three brands wines together.
Well, and you know, for Allison, I remember when she started in 2008, when she was just our enologist. I have a great background photo actually of her sorting grapes on the picking out the pick line. And you know, I've worked with Megan since 2006 when I started, and so their involvement in the winemaking has really it's been fun to watch them, you know, elevate everything that they've done and really start to now take control. And I think that, you know, for us, I mean, for me, for Tug of War, I mean, this is my favorite wine that we make. So I do have a favorite child, but it's not my brand. So I can say that, I guess. It's definitely it's the acidity and the tannin in this wine. So much about Zinfandel is built on, you know, the fruit flavors of it, but it's got some really technical, high technical qualities for wine, which is really spectacular. And I think, you know, being so close to Gap's Crown, seeing the difference in this wine, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun trying them side by side, actually.
I think that something that is true, you talked earlier about the pride that Joanne has in this vineyard, but it's true. All of our vineyards are owned by, if they're not owned by us, they are owned by people who take a lot of pride in what they do. And I know at BACA, Jennifer, you're particularly conscious of the heritage vineyards, but I'd say across the board, we have vineyards that are run, owned, managed by people who don't cut the many corners that one could cut when they're taking care of the viticulture side of this process. And as my dad used to say, and I think he's right, over 90% of the wine is made in a vineyard anyway. So we need to start with the best vineyards.
Well, and you know, you always talk about how your father, Bob WALT, would be out in the vineyards, you know, many hours past when the workers would go home. And I think that's something that family ownership is something that he took a lot of pride in, we take a lot of pride in, and we want people that we work with to also have that same pride, because it makes a huge difference when you're not just doing it for, you know, the money that you make from it. It's because you're proud of it and you care about the quality that you're producing.
So let's see. Well, let me just ask you a question, Jennifer, that I think this is, Zinfandel is often enjoyed by people who are, they're open to trying something that's outside of the typical Cabernet, and forgive me, Jeff, Pinot Noir, but they're open to trying something different. So if you were talking to someone, Jennifer, about what you like to eat with Zinfandels, what would you say, and why? How would you encourage them to try a Zinfandel if they don't already do that?
Yeah, well, I think Zinfandel is a perfect food wine because, you know, it's high acid, and high acid wines go really well with food. It also has, you know, really good tannic structure, but not overly tannic. So you don't have to have a really big piece of, you know, meat or something super heavy for it to still pair well. You know, I had this wine the other day with a delicious penne and tomato sauce, like super simple, but really beautifully made. And I just think that a lot of simple but beautiful dishes go well with Zinfandel, as well as, you know, fancier dishes too.
No, I love the versatility.
What did you say, Jeff?
I said I love the versatility of Zinfandel.
Yeah.
The chameleonness. I love the fact that it adopts to kind of where it is. Like Pinot's just gonna, it's just gonna get angry with you. It's the persnickety grape. It's the heartbreak grape. It's gonna be like, it's too hot. I don't want to grow. But Zinfandel just kind of takes over and says, oh, I'm going to be a Russian River style, or I'm going to be a Rockpile style, or a Napa, or a Paso Robles. And it's all of the unique little intricacies, I think, of that grape that really make your portfolio shine. So.
Totally agree. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that on the growing side. That I totally agree. It's super versatile and grows really differently in lots of places.
Yeah.
We had a request to lower our volumes, each of us, and I, of course,
we're taking care of that. But I think, Kathryn, it's your turn now.
Yes, it absolutely is. And when we talked in a couple different ways about pride. Let me talk about this beautiful vineyard that's right behind me. And I'm here. This is Sakura Shea Vineyard. This is the first vineyard that my husband and I purchased when we came to Napa Valley. It started making wine in Napa Valley. And here's another picture of it. Actually, if you look really hard, maybe you can see me.
Yeah, you're over there.
But, yeah. So anyway, as you can see, we are here about 750 feet above the valley floor, which gives us some really special properties about this vineyard. It's mountain fruit, but it has a lot of different wind patterns, draining patterns on this vineyard. And so there's just a lot of nuance that comes through in the wine that's made from this vineyard. Actually, when we purchased it, we knew it would be great because it was making some really beautiful wines back in 1995. But it also was clear that we could improve this vineyard. And so we made a lot of changes. They were refinements. We tightened up the spacing on the wines. It had a sort of an old-fashioned, very wide spacing between vines. We changed out some of the rootstock and the clones on the vineyard, all with the idea of just maximizing the quality of the grapes, and then the wine that comes off of this wine. So it really has, I think those of you who have been drinking the Kathryn Hall in particular over many years, that was the first wine we ever made. You've seen that I think it's always been extraordinary. But even with the changes that have happened in our winemaking style and also the changes that we made in the vineyard, we still there are these aspects of this vineyard that stay true. It's got a real personality, and that comes through in the wines that are made. It's always produces wines that are very high tannic. That's something that's a challenge for our winemakers, but they work with that. But it also has these wonderful sort of earthy qualities that are imparted in the wine, and we love it, and we think it's getting better every year. And I have to say that you all in your shipment, you have the 2018, which is just, we think this is the best vintage we have had in the last 2 decades. So I hope you really enjoy it, and you will have the first priority. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for putting that up. You'll have the first priority. And so if you want to get some more, come at it, please do. Jeff, why don't you walk us through this wine?
Yeah, I mean, this is the wine that my first vintage of this wine was in 2002. I was working at a Morton Steakhouse, and we had this presentation. That's my first memory of this. And so for me, I'm always interested in that Sakura Shea character, right? It's the consistent quality, it's the consistent flavors, and off of after harvest, you have, black truffle in this wine. You have big, dark, unctuous black flavors, briar fruit. The tannins, as you mentioned, are big. They're massive, right? These are tannins that really just want to pucker and everything and dry it. And so I know for Megan, it's a stylistic. How do we, tame these tannins, and how do you bring the tannins just really into the recesses of your palate so that you have the opportunity to really enjoy the opulence of the wine, the ubiquity of the wine, and then frame it with those really strong, but, soft. They really spend a lot of time softening these tannins so that the wine is approachable now. But I mean, this is the type of wine that, we would continue to sell in my house, at least, as much as I can. And I really believe that this 2018 vintage, it's big and abundant. It's round. It has opulence. It's beautiful. I mean, the aromas are incredible. So I'm yes. Thank you, Kathryn.
It's pretty wonderful. Jen, what do you think?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love the person. I love the wine. It's just really, for me, I have such a sentimental attachment to this wine because it's the first wine we made, at least from our vineyard, our family vineyard, and coming from the heart of it, coming from the Sakura Shea vineyard, it means so much to me. But the fact that the wine is just so incredible makes me love it even more. And I think for this wine, it's like everything you want in a wine, this wine has, and we did everything right,
Yeah.
25 months, I think, in oak. And it just is just an incredible wine. And as Jeff said, the soft tannins, I would call them silky. They're just really elegant. It's a big wine, but it's still incredibly elegant. And I mean, cheers, Megan and Allison, for making this incredible wine.
Which
Yeah.
they will not see this because they're busy right now, but we
You're
will
right.
post them.
Cheers, Megan and Allison.
Cheers to you all. But it's also, we have been blending in some other mountain fruit a lot into the Kathryn Hall and over recent years anyway. And so I think we've really been able to establish a very specific style on this wine that is very opulent, to use Jeff's word, just luscious. I actually think it's also just, there's a femininity about it. I don't know if that's PC to say it, but it's just like, it's a really, just an elegant wine, I think.
I think strong women can say whatever they like about the wine, but yeah,
Well,
you're right.
you.
There's
True to
chocolate from Diamond Mountain now. We have this chocolate and there's a second mineral component. And if for those of you who have no idea what I just said, if that just went like this, please ask questions. You can, post them in the Q&A box or in the chat. And then Howell Mountain gave us this other elevation of mid-palate concentration. And it's just, I think that's the additions that the winemakers have made to really fine tune this wine. Just continue to elevate, and I know the writers agree because they just keep giving it bigger scores every year.
Yeah, no, we always just get these beautiful scores off of this vineyard, and now we sort of take it for granted, but it really is just.
Well, I remember, way back when, a long time ago, when we got our first 90-point score, and we were like running around high-fiving. Oh my God, this is so exciting! And now we get 90 points. We're like, oh, ho hum, not 100. What do you mean?
No, we still go woohoo, but it may not be like a scream through the winery.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, and I got to say, if we just get a 90, I'm actually sort of offended, just to be really honest. So,
It's better than that.
So we had a question to compare the 2018 with some of the older vintages of our Cabernets, and I'll just I'll make some comments now, and then I'd love for you all to sort of chime in. For me, there is just the Kathryn Hall in particular, but really all our Cabernets are just over a little time when the tannins are softening, they are, for me, more appealing. I'll take an example of the Kathryn Hall. When 2013 first came out, I actually found it had a lot of sort of an edge. People were lauding it as being such a wonderful vintage, but in my heart, I felt it wasn't really as luscious or as soft as I had hoped it would be. And now the 2013 is just knocks your socks off. I find that 2013 is just really a beautiful, beautiful expression of the Kathryn Hall and of this vineyard in particular.
I think that's so amazing. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's so amazing that a bottle of wine can just capture one moment in time. It captures that one moment in time, and yet it still evolves over time. And whether you guys as members are opening it today and you like it a little bit more fruit forward, or whether you're opening it later when it's a little bit, got more tertiary characteristics, I think that it just continues to evolve, and it's got great qualities that just change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned that moment in time, Jennifer, because that's just a reminder. For all of you, we just are launching this wonderful contest called My Wine Moment. And so you can get the details on the website, but it's very fun. And the idea is to share a favorite wine moment that you have. And it gives us at the winery so much joy looking at the pictures that we get from you showing your wine moments. And then we thought, why not? We'll share this with everybody. So put them in.
Let's mention the prize too. So it's not just, you submit the photo, but it's about $7,500 worth of value for the contest. So you get 2 round trip business class tickets to Napa Valley, and you get 2-night stay at Senza Hotel in Napa Valley, and you get, I think, 4 or 5 of our elevated experiences, 5, as Dan and Jeff calls us
We're
down
going
there.
big.
We're going
Yeah.
big.
Good.
So yeah, it's a big contest. So we've never done anything this big. So highly recommend that you enter.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think you
well,
do that
hopefully
starting
that's-
October 1st, right, Jennifer?
Yeah, October is just in a few days. How
Yeah,
is it already
so
the end of September?
Take a picture of you enjoying your wine moment right now. And then
That's
on
right.
October 1st, post it and hashtag my wine moment and tag Hall Wines or Walt
Yeah.
Wines or BACA Wines.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
it could
Maybe
be.
stand in front of your screen. Well, we can all be in it with you.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, very,
Oh.
very fun. Let's see if we've got some more questions that are coming in here. Well, this is okay. Kelly Norman says, I've been a Hall member since my last visit to Napa, and I've kept my Kathryn Hall and Jack's Masterpiece in my cellar to age. How long should I wait to start sampling? I'm very impatient. Well, guess what, Kelly? I am very impatient too. So I tend to drink. I was telling you how I love the 2013 now, but I love the freshness of grapes. So there's, a wine presents different aspects of its beauty over its lifetime. And so at the beginning, it's going to have so much fruit. The acid's going to be a little higher. Obviously, the tannins are going to be stronger then as well. But if you really like sort of fruit-driven flavors in your wine, then probably you're going to want to drink them younger and not age them as well. If you like these sort of secondary, tertiary characteristics that Jennifer was talking about, then you are going to want to wait a little bit longer. And so I think the best solution is to just buy a lot of different bottles, many bottles, and then
We're
just
not biased,
sort of,
though.
but I honestly think that it's just the idea of, it's so fascinating to watch. It's like watching a child grow, it's just like to watch how a wine grows over the course of its life.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that they buy a case of the Kathryn Hall from a particular vintage, and then they drink one each year, and they like seeing how it changes every year. And I think that's such a neat idea if it's something that you can do, because it is kind of fun to compare it every year too.
Right. So we had a question that came in about the difference between the Kathryn and the Excellence. So we've been telling the stories about these, the names. I'm not sure I mentioned to you all, but you probably already know that the WALT is my middle name. That's where that name came from. But but Excellence also comes off of the Sakura Vineyard. And actually the Kathryn has more wines, other mountain fruit that's blended in with it. So the Excellence is going to be more of an expression of the Sakura characters than the Kathryn Hall is. But the Excellence is, it's actually a German word, and it means ambassador. So that's, we thought it was a nice tie-in with the fact that we think it's a very excellent wine, but also sort of it's personal to us. So I would also say that the Excellence is just takes longer to age. It's got more tannins in it. It's doesn't start off sort of with these as much of a lushness as the Kathryn Hall does, but it is, I think, quite lovely when it's young as well as when it's older. So
Yeah,
you guys, Jeff, what would you add? Yeah,
I loved meeting Excellence for the first time. I think it was 2008 when our first vintage was 2005. And so it was a play on a wine that was, for me, really in my wheelhouse with Kathryn Hall, which is what I have here. And then just taking a step up, right? The tannins are firmer. The wine has, much more ageability. For me, I don't kind of want to touch that wine for 5 years, just kind of getting back to what Kelly said. I really want those tannins to soften because there's so much opulent fruit behind it. It's from a really specific place in the Sakura. I know that Megan is fond of a specific part of the site. And you really also start to understand the volcanic mineral components that are in the wine much more with Sakura Shea. There's such an elegance to Kathryn Hall, and Sakura Shea is coming at you with a singular expression of a place, and not only that, but a place within a place. And that, for me, that's what really sings and produces it. And maybe it's more broad shouldered than Kathryn Hall. Maybe Kathryn's a little bit more round and coating, and excellence is really going to come in more like a downhill ski slope. It's coming in fast. It's going to be right there for you. You're be ready for it. And then, but I would strongly recommend for the next shipment. 2018 is a beautiful vintage. It'll probably be more approachable. Just because it was such a beautiful year. But I would also say this is a good wine to put away for a special occasion.
Yeah, coming in on the edges.
One thing you didn't say about excellence is that, yes, it means ambassador in German, but that's what you were called. When we lived in Austria for 4 years, people would say, Ihre Exzellenz. That's what they called you when you were ambassador. And so it's another play off of your name. Kathryn Hall is our other wine we make from there, and then excellence is just the most excellent fruit from the vineyard.
Yes, and the thing that I miss, but I can't get you all to do it, is every time I would come into a room, everybody would say excellence, and they'd also stand. So,
That's true.
Maybe that could happen too, but
we could work on that, maybe.
Yeah. We actually make one other wine that some of you may not be familiar with, and that comes off of this vineyard, and it's the Sakura Shea. It's part of our platinum collection, which is you can find out about those wines on our website as well. But it's a just extraordinary sampling of this vineyard, and it comes from very specific parts of the vineyard as well, and
it is literally the best barrels that Megan can find, and the wine is insane. It is so good, and it's just they just keep wanting to make it, keep coming up and up and up with new, better ideas. So, and the wines are great. The Platinum Collection wines in general are just fabulous.
Incredible. Yeah, if you guys are interested in Platinum, in case you don't know, we have a link to it on our website where you can sign up for an allocation list to check out those wines.
The easiest way to get on the allocation list is buy a lot of BACA and WALT wines.
And then we'll be like, yes, in. Totally in.
Yeah, the two of you get to vote. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple more questions.
Yeah, let me take the first of these. I'm going to toss to you, Jennifer, and that is what's happening right now with the grapes that are still hanging on the vines?
Oh yeah, well, we're just waiting for them to reach, the optimum level of bricks and acidity. So our winemaking team and our vineyard team are out there constantly looking at all of our properties to make sure that the grapes are progressing at the level we want them to, and making sure we're picking them at exactly the right time. Something that wineries, it's difficult for us to do. It takes a lot of resources, but we think it's super important. So for example, this wine that we just had from BACA, Tug of War, it's going to be picked in probably about a week or two. Lovely modeling, Jeff. And that's because we like to wait for the acidity to reach like a perfect amount. But basically, the vineyard team and the winemaking team go out there and they're doing measurements all the time, picking berries and then analyzing them to see what measurements they're getting. And some of it's also an art. It's not just a science, but we want to make sure we pick at the right time. And when we do pick, by the way, we're often picking in the middle of the night or the morning. So let's say 3 a.m. because it's the freshest. And then we put those grapes on refrigerated trucks, no matter where they come from, whether it's Clopepe down in Santa Barbara region or whether it's Tug of War in Russian River. They're going on refrigerated trucks into our facility in St. Helena so they can stay as fresh as possible and don't get affected by the heat. So that was a long answer to your question.
No, that was a good answer.
But a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
That was good.
So Jeff, next question to you. Do you know what we can expect or have any insight with this year's vintage?
Well, just like every winemaker would tell you, we're not going to be able to tell you anything about the wines and where the wines are at until they're all in and they're all fermented. But what I can say is it's a a normal year, I guess. I don't want to play it down, but vintage and how things come in, whether it's, Sauvignon Blanc always comes in first usually, and then Pinot Noir and Cabernet, we're seeing a little bit of change in that. And that's a very normal thing for vintage right now, where Cabernet may actually come in ahead of the southern part of California's Pinot Noir crop. Zinfandel is actually, a little behind, as Jennifer had said. What I do know is that it's going to be a really great year for flavors. I think that's one of the things that Megan and Allison keep saying is that because of the drought, we're in a year where the flavors are going to be really abundant and they're going to be very full. We may see a little less fruit here and there for our crops, but that's not a bad thing. That just means that that's going to be the characteristic of the vintage. And so I look forward to tasting these wines. Hopefully, I'll be at the winery this weekend to taste them out. So I'm looking forward to it.
And we would like many more days, just like this day that we're having today. So keep coming on with the sun and no more heat spikes. It's really the irregularities that you want to avoid during the harvest season. But it is, as Jeff said, we're all very excited about this. I just have to give a shout out to Kelly Norman, who is a military attaché in Mexico and in Haiti. Oh my goodness, you must have so many stories left over from Haiti. But Kelly said to me that he would stand when I enter a room. That's my message to you. Thank you, Kelly.
Good person.
Yeah. So everybody, you all have just been so wonderful. We need to bring this to a close, but I want to say to you, our members, thank you so much for being our members. It's one thing to love growing grapes and making great wine, and we do love that, but it's also very much about having people to share it with and people who appreciate the wine. So you make this very worthwhile for us, and we are very grateful to you. Jen, any last thoughts before you take off?
I do. I mean, I'll echo what you said, which is I'm just so grateful for you guys for being our members. A couple weeks ago, I was hosting a wine dinner, and several people at the wine dinner were showing me pictures on their phone from special moments in their lives when they were at our properties, whether it was in front of the garden plot piece by Nick Cave, that beautiful tapestry that we have in our lobby in Hall St. Helena, or whether it was at our newest property, the WALT BACA Healdsburg. I just love that our members are so passionate about being part of this community that they are excited about sharing those moments with me when I'm out there. And that means so much to me personally. And you guys have no idea how wonderful it is that we all put our heart and soul into what we do, and to have that be appreciated by you guys just means so much to us. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeff.
I would just say thanks to our members, for being our members. You literally put my career on the map. So thank you for being such passionate wine lovers, for coming to visit us. We are open and we want to see you guys again. So please continue to come visit. And also I'm going to, Kathryn, you both put it so well, but I'm just going to say that you've got a great guest on tomorrow night. So the live shows don't stop. And I know we've got Anthony tomorrow from Queer Eye, and we've got Martin Short next week. So please tune in again. We're excited to share these wines with you, and thanks so much for being a member.
Great. I'm glad you mentioned that. And we are we've got many more wonderful guests coming up on the happy hours. So don't stop after next week. We've just check us out and keep them coming. We are having so much fun doing it. So we will see you again. Hopefully Jennifer and Jeff and I will see you in the very near future on happy hours. But in addition to that, we will see you again in November, which is when we're going to have our winter club shipment. And we'll see you then. And in the meantime, I will say one more time before we close, thank you everyone so much for being a member of Hall, WALT, and BACA. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.